Yeah, so our next presentation is by Fessahaye Mebrahtu on the Eucharistic prayer of Saint Epiphanius and the natural world. Still environment. Welcome.
Well, it's hard to follow scholars, but I'm coming from pastoral praxis, so you will not hear a lot of big words. However, my presentation somehow follows what Oscar has presented to us. This is my third time presenting. The first time was using the Israelite as a model of indigenizing the gospel. Second one was how we are expanding and making our home in North America, so faith and identity. This year is the Eucharistic prayer of Saint Epiphanius. So abstract is the goal, introduction, the Rite tradition, because I need to give you an overview. Same thing, the Eucharistic prayers in the Ge'ez tradition, but the heart of the matter is Eucharistic prayer of Saint Epiphanius and the natural world or natural cycle. So we proceed to the Ge'ez spirituality and theology of nature, of course, conclusion. Of course, as you know, we have specific types of cross. These are the Ge'ez Rite or the Ethiopian cross as we know it. I put this one purposely because we are dealing with the natural world. So if you see certain, these are all from Eritrea and Ethiopia. If we are going to talk about the natural world, then it's also good to be able to visualize and reflect. I have put certain pictures on purpose so that there is a meaning behind it. The abstract is as you reflect, you will notice this one, think about this one later on. But why did I put this one? However, our main goal is that we are coming from the natural cycle is celebrated in the liturgy. And it is an African tradition which takes the holistic approach of our surrounding. The Ge'ez ritual tradition has beautifully integrated it into its theology, spirituality, and way of life. So the natural cycle is basically a part of the natural rhythm of life. This is just for your visual. These are two Christian denominations. One is Catholic, the other one is Orthodox. I don't think you know which one is which, because they are the same. So the one to the left is Catholic, and the right is Orthodox. But the umbrellas signify the presence of the sacred, whether it is the cross, the gospel of the Eucharist. It's also in the old ancient traditions, even in Egypt, you will see the royals accompanied by umbrellas. That signifies the same thing. So this is a mountain familiar to me, covered with fog. So the compatibility of indigenous cultures with Christianity has been already established by the Ge'ez Rite. We are trying to turn, bend backwards to find it, but it still is there. But unless I tell you, I don't think you're aware of it. That's why I keep coming again and again, so that to tell the world that, especially African Christians, to understand that there is a hidden treasure in the Ge'ez Rite tradition. So everything is, the ritual, the customs are integrated into the liturgy. So this is the Eucharistic prayers of the Ge'ez tradition. These are two bishops and celebrating Mass. The uniqueness is that It's vibrant. You were talking about dancing, instruments, drums. Some of the instruments last year I showed you it goes as back as to the ancient Egyptians. Eucharistic prayers. We do have 17 Eucharistic prayers in the Catholic Church and 14 Eucharistic prayers in the Orthodox. 81 books. Last year I remember the question of asking, these are canonical in us. And a very deep devotion, sister is not here, to the Virgin Mary. These aspects give us how they are integrated into the spirituality and the Christianity of Eritrea and Ethiopia is. They are so well integrated into the culture. When you scratch a little bit, you find the traditional African religions there with the Christian meaning. So these are, you can read for yourself. They are mostly are indigenous compositions, but the names that are given is to find legitimacy that they are belonged or inspired by the church fathers of the early church. So they are mostly pseudonames. This is the high mountains of Ethiopia and Eritrea are known as the roof of Africa. So this is the high mountains. But the significance of this natural beauty in high mountains is that most of our monasteries are built on these high grounds. In the African traditions, the higher grounds are also the sacred place. Even in the Native American aspect, there are certain mountains that are considered sacred. So the liturgical celebration of the natural season is that the responsorial psalm the Sunday before the natural cycle of the rain season says, you created the sun and the moon. You created mountains on all the land. Yes, you set the rain and the dry season. So this is from the book of Psalms, but is integrated into the liturgy. Then the Eucharistic prayer of Saint Epiphanius. Now let's go to the word what Epiphanius is. This is a pseudonym. Epiphanius is a historical figure in the church. However, Epiphany is God's revelation in the natural world. So the East tradition is playing with words to mean that God is revealed in the natural season. This gives us a more theological meaning than the apparent meaning or name. And as we see, the dual meaning or double meaning in the tradition or the Ethiopian Eritrean is called wax and gold. You have the apparent meaning and the inner meaning. So Epiphanius is signifying to the natural revelation of God, but just to give legitimacy, it becomes Saint Epiphanius. So what it says is that the footsteps of the rain is resounding. The hungry are fed when the rain it rains, and the poor rejoice. You mentioned about Father Godfrey. Ethiopia has been known for this biblical proportion of famine. So rainy season, natural season is very significant and a very direct connection to the divine providence. That is something that we have to look at. So the prayer of St. Epiphanius says, his actions are rare. We have never seen like before. His power is awesome. We never heard before. His glory is wondrous than ever recounted. The Rite is what they call the ineffable, or the negative attributions of God is how we use, because we cannot comprehend God's action or nature. So we go with the negative attributions of God. That's where we are. He made light from out of darkness. Let me see if, he made light from out of darkness, and he knows how to separate clouds. He divides the water as he wills, and he conceals his chosen ones in the clouds. He made the earth by setting its sides, established the boundaries, and set its directions. He fenced the sea with gates like the mother's womb. He made the clouds for its clothing and snuggles it with fog. He made the shores like bolted gates. The Eucharistic prayer is incorporating from the prayer of Psalms, but is recounting the natural way of attribution of God's providence. So, the Sunday before we call it Kremta season, is called the rain season, prepares, the prayer prepares for it. Now, when we move to the next is, let me see. Okay, this is where, look to the numbers. Starts June the 26th and goes about 40 days, 6 weeks, but also adds some. The Sunday of sowing, the Sunday of clouds, the Sunday of fog, the Sunday of rain, the Sunday of lightning, and the Sunday of hatchlings, or the Sunday of all eyes depend on you. Each Sunday has a theme, and it is, that's why those mountains, those clouds, those things that he saw are somehow corresponding to what I'm trying to do here. So within that season, there is also the Feast of Transfiguration, where that Jesus goes to the mountain. What happens? There is a cloud that covers them. Still, that's a theophany, is a part of the Epiphany. God reveals. It also falls within that season. I believe in the Latin Rite is around March or around, not in August. Is it? August 6th, so within the same season. So after that, we have also the Sunday of Fruits, which follows our New Year, we just celebrated about 2 weeks ago. Falls within New Year is the Sunday of Fruits. Then October and part of November is called the flower the season. However, the first one that I showed you, the 6 Sundays, the prayer of St. Epiphanius is the liturgical prayer that is used, the Eucharistic prayer. So it says, God makes the rain forceful in the desert where no one lives. Even if there nobody lives, God provides. He contains the water and opens the rain season year after year. He pushes away the haze and it's removed. The dry season comes in due time. He calls the cloud and the rain responds, trembling. He counts or shivering, as the symbolism of raining down. He counts the clouds in his wisdom, or from he made the sky to hover over the earth. He starts the rain season year after year, the liturgical cycle. So that is God's immanence and God's providence in the Israelite. Now, let's go to the Israelite spirituality and theology of nature. This one is a church. Everything else is barren. The church is the only forest area that you see. And compare it to the African sacred grove or sacred forest. That's the only place that you will find in a deserted desert area, a deforested area in Eritrea and Ethiopia. The church will be always. And that's where the ecosystem is still preserved. It gives us somehow, it gives us, this is also another church. This is not the same picture of when I show you. What is the meaning? I'll show you later, then there's a video clip you will see. This is also in the middle of the city, right in the middle this is the church forest. Thank you. So this is a holistic spirituality where the environment, the area, the animals, no animal is supposed to be killed in that premises. It could be a snake. There's also other places where holy water is near monasteries and shrines. No animal is supposed to be killed in that environment. Monasteries, you will see we have several monasteries in Eritrea and Ethiopia. Those are the only areas that you will find forests because they are considered sacred forests. But if I kill a person, I don't kill, by the way. if in a hot pursuit, I run and take refuge either in the church premises or in the monastery forest, I'm not supposed to be touched. I'm not supposed to be killed. So that is the preservation of life. But at the same time, these small islands of forests serve us as moral, they give us a moral compass. The church can play a role in restoring the ecosystem so that, because the place that I showed you, how does the Eritrean and Ethiopian church consider that one? That is the image of the Garden of Eden. That is the whole purpose. Why the church is a sacred place? Because it's the image of the sacred of Eden. And if we move that one out and make it the whole neighborhood, the whole country, the whole state, then that we go back to that sacredness of the land according to our cultural tradition. So let me, how do I go to over here? I will show you.
This isn't. በነበረው በሙሉ እስከ ጣና ሐይቅ ድረስ በጣም ደን ነበረ። በዛም ጊዜም ሰው እንዳሁኑ ጊዜ አልተራባም ነበረ። ደኑ በጣም ብዙ ነበረ። አሁን ግን ሰው ሲራባ ያው እየተመነጠረ አሁን ግን የራሽ ሆኗል። አሁን ግን ደንዛ የምትገኘው በአሁኑ ወቅት የቤተ ክርስቲያን ናት። ደንዛ የምትገኝ አሁን በአሁኑ ወቅት ቤተ ክርስቲያን ናት።
So this is a sign that where the church becomes the heaven for animals and for us as an example. And if we go further, why is it not responding? Oh, I have to go out. So this is also, this is not, these are in southern Ethiopia. They are approaching a sacred, these are traditional African religions. They are approaching a sacred space They are respecting. In front of them is a forest, a sacred forest. So I'm trying to parallel what the Christian Church of Eritrea and Ethiopia, and within the same culture, they are also respecting. Then the final one is any Nigerian would recognize is this one. This is the sacred forest of Nigeria, where it is very parallel to what we call sacred forest. So the natural season, the natural cycle in the Ge'ez tradition is integrated into its liturgy. Not only that, it has its own liturgical prayer or Eucharistic prayer that celebrates this connection. And so the church is, the Eritrean or the Israelite church is already ahead of us, and we would like you to see and study. That's why I come year after year to somehow pique your interest, and if you would study a little bit. I can teach you Ge'ez. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have some questions, comments?
It's so rich that I cannot but ask the question. First of all, I'm curious to know when the prayer, the Eucharistic prayer of St. Epiphanius was written. I had to check my phone. I couldn't find anything. Do you have information on that, when that prayer was written?
Well, what I did is in my research, I found it to be right smack in the middle. You know, we have 17 Eucharistic prayers, so it's number 8.
Okay.
The Orthodox have 14 Eucharistic prayer. It is number 10. It's smack right in the middle.
Okay.
Which means also I have the book of hymns. Each Sunday has its own hymn. It's connected to the responsorial psalm, to the season, and to the gospel reading. So this is as old as the church, which means by ranking the number 8 and number 10, it has to be at least 1,000 years old.
That's fascinating. And then the next thing I wanted to say is that I think what you just showed is huge. When you said in the grove, the sacred grove around the church, no animal can be killed, which is quite interesting, because even in the Western tradition, the sanctuary laws are only anthropologically focused. The human person is the one protected. But here is literally a cosmological protection of anything that is there. I'm curious, was that, for those of you in early Christianity or other stuff, was this the initial thing, or did we lose it, that we now started killing animals and left only human beings in that? Because you have it also in African, the sacred forest. There are certain sacred forests, you don't kill anything there.
That's why I brought it. Okay. Well, now, in our political climate, even the sanctuary is not sacred anymore. So we have passed that. So we have to be very, mindful of what we are losing and where we are going. However, in our environmental crisis, the traditional African religion, sacred forest, and the concept of Garden of Eden of the Israelite tradition can give us as a model, because those plants are the ones that are original. So if we are going to afforest the area, those are the models. Those are the native plants that will serve as a model to repopulate or replant the area. And the same thing in other parts of Africa, where sacred plants or sacred space become the ecosystem or the eco diversity still preserved. So But when we come from that Christian or Islam or from a moral perspective, that gives us the impetus in terms of taking care of the creation. We are stewards and co-creators. The co-creation is to be inventive and be able to help what we have lost through, not natural because of our human, greed or misuse. Does it make sense?
Thank you very much for such an engaging presentation. Some thinkers who work on environmental ethics from a Christian perspective have begun to speak about what they call watershed discipleship. Watershed discipleship is a new way of Christian discipleship that invites us to re-inhabit our watersheds, the places that we live, making them, devising practices that help us to honor creation's possibilities, but also helping us to, as Christian disciples, to take care of the environment in which we live. So bringing understandings of God's invitation for us to be stewards of the environment into the practice of mission and Christian theology and praxis. Now, I am concerned about the fact that this is a green ecclesiology is what you are really showing us, where the sacred forest is preserved within the context of the church. You see the entire environment is bare, but only the section where the church is green. How does that really contribute much to the ecological conservation, but also the conversation, if what is happening within this environment of the church doesn't change the way that we look at the places outside of the church? Because only the church is green, but the outside is not green. So is there a way that the church is making a social impact to help people see if this is good for us, why is it not good for the entire landscape? Why is it just only that section?
Well, number one is a survival issue. People have to farm and cut the trees and so on and so forth. But for the church becomes a model, but also it becomes a moral force to educate the community. Out of necessity, you have seen the area being deforested. But as we see the damage we have done, then the church or the sacred force in other parts of Africa become models of healing the land and educating our people that is in their best interest for survival. That's one aspect. The watershed theology they are talking about, you have heard when Ethiopia built the Renaissance Dam, Egypt was very upset. Regardless, they were able to finish it, and last week or 2 weeks ago, they inaugurated it. However, the discussion is not there. That's a political discussion. Egypt could lose all the water it wants if Ethiopia becomes a desert. So the dialogue has to be that what you are saying is not about having a dam or not, but how are you treating the source, the land that produces water? If one day, God forbid, all those area that was feeding Egypt or Sudan or the surrounding area becomes a desert, then you have to think from that perspective. How do you sustain instead of fighting over a project? That's also how we have to have a paradigm shift in our thinking, because we are a very consumer-oriented culture that has caught with Africa, but also in Africa the problem is that the energy system, we are still burning woods for fuel. Our agricultural system is backwards in many ways. The way we are doing, we are using Western fertilizer, but we are not using the system that the Father Godfrey that you mentioned is doing in terms of sustaining and so on and so forth. So there is a lot to unpack in here, but at the same time is, of course, I mean, this is for our reflection to think outside of the box, but we are also, mind you, we are also told how to conserve nature by the West. There is an imposition how to develop our land or not to develop our land as imposition instead of teaching the people to start thinking for themselves and see what is their best interest from what is best for their land, for the people. And the other aspect that I want you to just mention, which I glossed over, is that the natural cycle in the Israelite tradition does not only start on the rainy season. It has preserved the fertility culture in a way it's very unique, because when is the birthday of Mary in the Latin tradition? Is September 8th. Our celebration of the birth of Mary is May 9. The beginning of the rainy season, and in the spring. So that's when the first rain starts to appear. And there are ritual traditions that show that women only perform as a way of fertility. But we called it, we camouflaged with the Christian meaning, rightly so. Mary becomes this life giver. And it is integrated into but the prayer of the Eucharistic prayer is not in there, because she has her own prayer, Eucharistic prayer. We use that one. But the hymns and the readings refer to that like a plant by the riverside or something like that. So this is the whole approach of, thank you. If you have any other questions, I'm gone.
Thank you so much, everyone, for your patience, the questions you've raised, the presentation, and we look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Have a good evening.
Tomorrow will be the next building.
But,